Welcome to the 2024 Annual Conference and Book Fair in Kansas City, Missouri. I am Demisty D. Bellinger, a member of the AWP Board of Directors. Here is a visual description of myself for those of us who need it. I am an African-American woman, brown skin, with braided type hair, and I'm wearing all black. I'm short and thick, okay. The Association of Writers and Writing Programs is a small but mighty nonprofit organization that amplifies the voices of writers and the academic programs and organizations that serve them, all while championing diversity and excellence in creative writing. I am a member of AWP's Board of Directors, but first and foremost, I am a member of AWP. Membership with AWP provides me with writing resources year-round, but just as importantly, the membership and my donations allows me to support other writers, especially those who are just starting out. My membership dues help writers find meaningful careers and publication opportunities and make services like the Writer-to-Writer Mentorship Program and the AWP HBCU Fellowship Program possible. If you aren't already, I invite you to become a member today. We are delighted to bring you this event today. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all of our conference sponsors and the literary partner hosting this event, the Academy of American Poets. Our literary partners and sponsors allow AWP to present these extraordinary literary events and help us keep our conference affordable and accessible. Please join me in thanking to all of our conference sponsors and partners for their support and participation. Now, before we start, I do need to do some brief housekeeping. Please silence your cell phones. Remember, there is no flash photography allowed during the presentation. Respect seats marked as reserved for attendees with accessibility needs. Please give the authors about 10 minutes after the presentation to get to the book signing table before approaching them to have your book signed. Lastly, we ask that you please be aware of your fellow attendees who may have disabilities and help AWP be more accessible. Specifically, if you see a barrier to accessibility, let us know by calling or texting our accessibility hotline at 240-269-6635. And that number is also on the back of your badge if you need it. Please also be aware of those with invisible disabilities and do not question someone's use of an accommodation. Thank you. And now it's my great pleasure and honor to welcome Ricardo Maldonado, who will introduce this fantastic event. Thank you.
Thank you, Demisty. Okay, buenos dias, good morning. I am Ricardo Alberto Maldonado. It brings me great hope to be here with you today in Kansas City. I am the Academy's President and Executive Director. Welcome to today's readings by Suji Kwok Kim, Sarah Danielle Rivera, and Nicole Seeley. Kim is the author of Notes from the Divided Country, which received the 2002 World Women Award from the Academy, and Notes from the North, winner of the International Book and Pamphlet Competition. You can buy it from Suji after the reading, while supplies last. Rivera is the author of The Blue Mimes, winner of the Academy's 2023 First Book Award. Seeley, the author of The Animal After Whom Other Animals Are Named, Ordinary Beast, and The Ferguson Report. She was a curator for a special series of Poem a Day in 2020. They will be reading in alphabetical order. You can get your book signed afterwards, but you have to ask nicely. For 90 years, the Academy of American Poets has been a home for meaningful communion between poets and readers. Ours is a continued mutual project of possibility and corroboration, of and for each other. Every morning, I am reminded of how poems are shaped by what has not been said until the moment of composition, a mercy at that, a hint of our own possibility we make real with words for others and for ourselves. This brings me to words by the Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye, a former Academy Chancellor. When told, "I hope your people are safe," she replied, "But none of us are always safe, and they are all our people." As we contemplate continued forms of state violence, whether it is in Palestine, Congo, Sudan, or Ferguson, Missouri, just 3 hours away, they are all our people. Let that be stated for the record. And now please join me in welcoming Suji Kwok Kim.
Thank you all for coming at the very, very end of a long conference. And happy Lunar New Year for those of you who celebrate. It's the year of the tiger. Woo! Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to everybody who works for the AWP who's making this amazing conference come together. Thank you to Ricardo, and thank you to Nikai, and thank you to my fellow readers, Nicole and Sarah. Since it's a celebration of the first book award, I'm going to read 2 from that first book. And actually, so this is oh, it came up. This is an experiment. This is all new. My parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents all came from the North Korean, Chinese, Russian border. It should be marked back there. And this first poem is from Notes from the Divided Country, which is called Occupation. And Rashid Khalidi likes to say that occupation is a structure, not just an event, but sometimes it's both a structure and an event. Occupation. The soldiers are hard at work building a house. They hammer bodies into the earth like nails. They paint the walls with blood. Inside, the doors stay locked, shut as eyes of stone. Inside, the stairs feel slippery. All flights go down. There is no floor, only a roof where ash is falling. Dark snow, human snow, thickly, mutely falling. Come, they say. This house will last forever. You must occupy it. And you, and you, and you, and you. Come, they say. There is room for everyone. Sorry, that was actually meant for the previous poem. This is taken from the National Archives of the Japanese occupation of Korea. This next poem is also taken from that first book, again in celebration. It's called Monologue for an Onion. And the poet Paul Celan a long time ago noted that the etymological roots for onion and union come from the same place, oneness. Monologue for an Onion. I don't mean to make you cry. I mean nothing. But this has not kept you from peeling away my body, layer by layer. The tears clouding your eyes as the table fills with husks, cut flesh, all the debris of pursuit. Poor deluded human, you seek my heart. Hunt all you want. Beneath each skin of mine lies another skin. I am pure onion, pure union of outside and in, surface and secret core. Look at you, chopping and weeping. Idiot, is this the way you go through life? Your mind, a stopless knife, driven by your fantasy of truth, of lasting union? Ruin and tears, your only signs of progress? enough is enough. You must not grieve that the world is glimpsed through veils. How else can it be seen? How will you rip away the veil of the eye, the veil that you are, you who want to grasp the heart of things, hungry to know where meaning lies? Taste what you hold in your hands. Onion juice, yellow peels, my stinging shreds. You are the one in pieces. Whatever you meant to love, in meaning to, you changed yourself. You are not who you are, your soul cut moment to moment by a blade of fresh desire, the ground sown with abandoned skins. And at your inmost circle, what? A core that is not one. Poor fool. You are divided at the heart, lost in its maze of chambers, blood, and love. A heart that will one day beat you to death. As I was saying, so now I'm going to read from newer work. This is all from Notes from the North. As I said earlier, my entire family came from the North Korean, Russian, Chinese border. And in the chaos of the Korean War, when it first broke out, just because I think in the end, they wound up thinking that, estimating that 3 to 5 million people died in the space of 3 years. And geographically, Korea is maybe the size of the state of Michigan. So the other thing to know about is that my father got separated from my grandfather, so his own father, when he was 9. And we don't know if he's alive or not. And also, we have other Isan Gajok, other relatives who are in North Korea that we have not been able to contact. This one is called Snow Light. Snow of not knowing, not nothing. Snow of no word, no letters, no photos, no collect calls, no live feed, no last will, no remains, no soot, no hair, no broken bones, no teeth. You hunger for what? Not ash gruel, not crumbs of skull, not ice or hoarfrost from Siberian steppes. Snow of the hours, year after year, never after never. Without him, with him, within. Let's see. I also wanted to say a thank you to Yusef Komanyaka, who is responsible for everything that happened afterwards. And the other thank you I wanted to put out there was to Patrick Otuma, who was kind enough to do a podcast of the poem that the Academy posted on their website for a poem a day. It's called Notes, search engine, Notes from the North Korean, Chinese, Russian border. This poem is called Notes from Utopia, Inc., and it is for my grandfather. 1. Who minds the minders? To watch them, watch you, watch them, watch each other watching you. As you walk along the Taedong River, down Revolution Avenue, to the victorious Fatherland Liberation War Museum, past the guard towers and interrogation rooms, labyrinths of cinder block and barbed wire and steel, each face shadowed by that looked-at look. Blast doors sealed against anthrax or radiation, the exit that is not an exit. Thunder of wheels on tracks, a train's iron scrape and drag. Name the stations: Comrade, Red Star, Golden Fields, Paradise. Giant photos of the great leader hang on every wall, staring at you like a shorter, fatter Mao. The dictator's dead grandfather, still eternal president, the only corpse on the planet, holding executive office, as if all the world were underworld. Why did you come here among the marching soldiers, singing factory workers, dancing school children? What are you trying to find? We're all brothers and sisters. We have nothing to fear. Our Father is here. You cannot not see the other life you might have lived, the not I in the I, the never in the now. 2, seek, and ye shall seek. But how will you know him if you see him? Your minder reminds you not to speak to the natives. He could be the father who won't look for the grandfather you can't find, and who, after you're gone, will remember they ever lived. 3, or like a dog that cannot be flogged to forget, are you faithful, stupidly faithful? And to what? Your minder reminds you not to speak. 4, the silence is never silent in this country. You don't ask. You're too afraid to ask if he's still alive, as if the not asking could keep him from harm. You hear the grit, the grains, the splinters of different silences within the silence, the hiss of sizzling wires, crackling of malfunctioning microphones, the prickle of neck hair, the click of a surveillance camera. You hear the dream drum in your minder's mind, see the sunken eye sockets, cliff pox of his face, shadows of shadows of shadows. You know he knows you cannot know if he believes what he says or pretends to, because he must. You taste the tin can words he speaks, hear the unspoken words buzzing, swarming like black flies to shit, minutes ticking, hours whirring, the years smeared and sticky with wanting, waiting for the revolution to end. Taste the spit, bile at breaking one's back, working for utopia, TM, utopos, place where all is well, or is it utopos, no place? Deafening, the sound of eyeballs rolling back into the skull, sickening, the smell of a man lying to your face as you're lying to him, skin crawling, stomach churning, seeing him see you say nothing so you can leave, as he cannot. You mind, he minds, you mind, he minds it well. 5, seek, and ye shall seek. There is no end to the end. This next poem is called Children of the Revolution, and it's for my cousins. I think the only things you need to know ahead of time is that the famine took place in the 90s, and as with most famines, even present-day famines, they're political, they're not natural. They could have been prevented. All those deaths could have been prevented. Children of the Revolution for my cousins. First the meat disappeared from our rations, then the rice, then the barley and millet, then the rations vanished. We caught croakers, cuttlefish, hauled creels of eelgrass and whipwrack until soldiers fired warning shots to keep us from the sea. Trapped squirrels, snapped sparrows' necks, stoned snakes if we were quick, dug mud for frogs, dragged dogs from their holes. And when they were wiped out, gnawed rats raw, until they seemed to grow thinner, the parasites in our guts wither, the lice on our scalps starve. We boiled bracken, ground flour for noodles from beanstalks, stretched it with sawdust, cooked gruel from grass or moss. Stripped pine trees to chew the green inner bark, picked pigweed, hogweed, horseweed, wart, pounded acorns into a pulp. Hunt for spilled grain near shipyards and train stations. Poke through cow shit for corn. Wash well. Crush grubs, suck leeches, swallow the worms that would swallow you. Eat anything alive to stay alive. Snatch scraps of black market meat, mother meat, father meat, meat of wandering swallows, meat of tomorrow. Is, was, eat, eaten.
오늘을 위해 살지 말고 내일을 위해 살자.
The children's skulls swelled, their bellies bloated, their nails fell off. Hair rusted, eyes ringed with wrinkles, as if steel spectacles had been soldered into skin. But what was there to see? Faster, dig faster, save face, the aid workers are coming. Hide them, the rotted bodies, lives heaped high as leaves. There is hardly earth enough to bury all the dead. And now, I'd like to dedicate the last two poems to my son. He has a series called The Infinity of Affinity. And first was a Q&A with an imagined child and his grandmother, and it's just 2 lines. How long were you together? A, forever. Prayer at the migrant hospital. Lord, I don't know where you are or if you are. I pray every night, but to what gods, that he'll live. Forgive me, Faith, for not feeling you. I cannot not see my son's closing eyes, so I don't believe in belief. I believe in this wooden floor, in these cinder block walls, the steel brace soldering spine to skull. I believe in every pock and crook of his bones, every clotted hair on his blue-black scalp, every lash, every nail, every pore, every breath. Our Lady of syringes, Our Lady of pharmaceuticals, Our Lady of Valadol and Demerol and Haldol, see him, spare him, son I cannot save. And this is the last one, and it's called Sano. It's also dedicated to him. Good, it's gone. Sano. Out of albumin and blood, out of amniotic brine, placental sea swell, trough, salt spume, and foam. You came to us infinitely far, little traveler, from the other world. Skull keel and heel hull socketed to pelvic cradle. Rib rigging, bowsprit spine, driftwood bone. The ship of you scudding wave after wave of what might never have been. Memory, stay faithful to this moment, which will never return. May I never forget when we first saw you there on the other side. Still fish-gilled, water-lunged, your eelgrass hair and seahorse skeleton floating in the sonogram's screen like a ghost from tomorrow. Moth breath quicksilver in snowy pixels, fists in sleep twitch. Not yet alive, but not. You who were and were not. A thunder of blood beats sutured in green jags on the ultrasound machine, like hooves galloping from eternity to time. Feet kicking bone creel and womb wall, while we waited, never to waken in that world again, the world without the shadow of your death, with no you or not you, no is or was or might have been, or never were. And may I never forget when we first saw you in your afterlife, which was life, soaked otter pelt and swan down crowning, face cauled in blood and mucus mud, eyes soldered shut, wet birth cord rooting you from one world to the next, you who might not have lived, might never have been born like all the others, as we looked at every pock and crook of your skull with so much wonder that wonder is not the word. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was amazing. I'm about to have my first little one, so I think I'm going to be revisiting that last poem that Suji read in the next couple of months. Thank you all so much for coming. I feel outrageously grateful to be here at this AWP and to be part of this reading. To be reading with Suji and Nicole is just an absolute dream for me. I'm like the center of the greatest sandwich ever invented right now. And I'm incredibly grateful to the Academy, not only for inviting me to be part of this reading, but for supporting debut authors through their first book award, which is now how my book has gotten to come into the world. So thank you to Ricardo and Nikai and to Eduardo Corral, who selected my book for this incredible honor. So I'm going to start off with a poem that has an epigraph from Juan Felipe Herrera from his poem Punk Half Panther. And the quote says, "I locate the love void, and yet I know all is well." This is called Multi-Nights. The first time I failed you, I cooked something inedible, asked if our hands lacked something evolutionary, that we can't know the beaches our fathers have forgotten, what people used to eat in a malecón, their knees propped, and where were you when we broke like bread together? La comida mal hecha. Where were you when your father's world ended? Probably driving down Espejo Street, mirándote in the rear view. Una mirada, my mother says, you can always tell with people. Cara de bueno, cara de malo. I slept for years in half a bed. Where were you? Probably climbing a lover like a watchtower, and do you remember at the peak seeing the whole of a broken city? Every window a smokestack, saran wrapped for cold. Even that, una cosa mal hecha that crumbled like a foreclosure. A la vez, una cosecha. The songs of childhood mass were all songs of harvest, of walking barefoot even in the desert. And if you could have known who in your life would desert you before cooking them dinner, what would you choose to burn? I wrote this book over the course of 9 years. I dedicate it to all the beloved we've lost. Over those 9 years, I lost so many people who I loved in my family, grandparents and friends, and unexpectedly, my father. So much of this collection is elegiac and written in memory of those loved ones. I also wrote through periods of communal mourning and loss in our world and our country, through the pandemic, through moments of reckoning with racial violence and gun violence. So some of those poems are in the collection as well. And lastly, I wrote to understand some of the absences and gaps and voids in my own family story. Being part of a diasporic family, there are always parts of the family history that are lost. There are moments of disconnect in your sense of belonging. So I wrote to kind of look at some of those voids and try to understand them for myself. So I'll read a few poems that speak to that. This first one is called Quilla, and it contains imagery from the myth of the Incan deity Mama Quilla, who was the protector of women, the regulator of menstrual cycles, and the calculator of the passage of time. Quilla. A silver blue star at the bottom of a glass, a blood spot, something shed from the body transforms, crawls away on red wire legs. A dark stain blossoms on your face, tunnels inward and becomes a blankness in your brain. Border between tonalities of skin. I press your body to my face mid-ascension, reasoning we were never human, always foxes holding too hard to our sources of protection. Darkening can be a trace of love. In a dust storm, darkening can be a loss of dimensionality. In the before of our family, twin sisters died, one at birth, the other something to do with an earthquake. Nameless halves of a swept unit, salt left mid-air. Silver and silver and silver, the teardrops flood their containment. I skip stones at the edge of Callao, sling language across the blue. I knew you, I wish I knew you. A plane of water dazes after a stone has sunk. I have begged the animal inside me to release its captive light. I have hurled this toward you out of silence, attempting contact with what I will never touch, a body lodged behind an eclipse. This is a prose poem that I consider a companion to that piece. It's called Rompecabezas, which is the Spanish word for a puzzle, and it's also a composite word, romper meaning to break, and cabeza meaning head. Twin girls no one is looking for walk, their hands tracking walls of contiguous houses. Their hands drip with remains of cremoladas, and they are all possibility, future siblings, parents who will also die young. A cream church rings them in shadow. El Misti drapes them long in shadow. They are volcano children, daughters of Arequipa. They erupt or they sleep. They run hot into the gray specter of the ocean. Sunray yuccas barrel bodies under the clouded sun. Their clothes get stolen on the beach. This happens sometimes. You go swimming and someone takes your clothes, so you turn home having lost something, having gained something. Living contact salts skin to air, the shame and the perfection. Skin pricks into a star map. Right then, it's exhilarating to have no one and nothing protecting you. One girl stops. Mira, mira, she says, scanning the bareness of a plaza. It's only her, she realizes. Her twin died at birth. One piece of the composition lifts away rompecabezas, the shape of a sister goes blank, and a dreamscape unmakes itself, and the remaining girl, her head splits open on impact, because who knows when the earth started shaking. It has always been shaking. This has always been the most tremulous grounds for a story. She's torn from time the moment the wall collapses. Generations later, no one is looking for her name. There remains the scaffold of a plot, a rent seam in the sky. This next poem's a short piece that I normally don't read out loud because it has a visual element, but I thought I'd share it today because the visual element is the cover of the book, which are these drawings of seeds from the lucuma fruit that I drew when I was visiting Peru in 2014 after my grandfather passed away, and that's kind of when this entire book took root. So this poem is called Semillas de Lucuma, or Lucuma Seeds, and it has the drawings, each with a little fragment of the poem underneath. Semillas de Lucuma. Seed pits lined up, each a word I learned incorrectly, or not at all. Aquí no se dice así. Una fruta típica de acá. Shred texture, days punctuated by loss. The right thing to say or do, as elusive as a taste unremembered. I always believed I walked multiple worlds, but I lived in pre-translation, waiting for names to drop into my mouth. I'm sorry, a veces me equivoco. My slight and rotating catalog of apologies. How to be an archive of things no one thought to tell. This poem's called Algodones, which is a town in between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, where I live in New Mexico. Algodones. Someone I love died here. He died and I drove back to Albuquerque. Days later, another love, another death, a drive back to Algodones to pick up the ashes of the first. I can't go farther than this. On evening drives from Santa Fe, I repeat, I can't go farther than this, not even within the earshot of my heart. Barelyness of light. Windows stud the juniper hills at dusk, catch the opposing sun. They become containment fields I can't reconcile. This place doesn't mourn, there is no vigil, only 6 small suns in the holding of my throat. I have 2 more poems. This one is called Sol, and it's for my dad, who used to call me his little sunshine. Sol, you named me for light, how we belong in the little spaces carved for us, love tucking us into a walnut shell hollow, where you take the tiniest brush and paint a Christmas star along the concavity. Some days I'm a pendulum that exists on a planet that periodically loses gravity. Some days my light is spent, the light years required to travel back to myself too many. Since you died, I take tiny redundant steps and articles on which I predicate my survival. I want to believe death is only a pause in our continuous language, stillness, but what it means is cosmic change, that you and I and the delicate spaces we drew into being between us constitute a light source that spears endlessly through a cloud break as hope lances inside spherical borders. Thank you again so much for coming and for having me here. This last poem is called Fields Anointed with Poppies, and it was written after the 2019 El Paso Walmart shooting for a community vigil event in Albuquerque called 22 Poems and a Prayer for El Paso. And those poems were collected in a book by the same name, which is out with Dos Gatos Press. So this is the poem I wrote for that memorial event. Fields Anointed with Poppies. 1. I never thought of my body as a shrine, but now I feel the truth of its doors. I carry the archaeology of you. 2. The day the world changed, sound, color, composition at once, the day the sky inverted to become this broken sheet, the mountain hanging upside down, lost each one of its golden poppies. 3. You were talking to me 30 minutes ago. How am I supposed to learn to listen for you now in wind, prayer language, ghost tongue? You were speaking to me 30 minutes ago. 4. Desire to be behind a locked door, to be held, to be asked after, to hate if the person asking lacks the right words, to hate words because they lack totality. La totalidad, la profundidad, algo, algo. To want to be understood, to resist any claim that anybody understands. 5. I listened to your last voicemail again, the one about nothing. This time it was hearing you say the word tomorrow, an inflection so particularly yours, as if the second O were wearing a little hood of sound. 6. Hasta tenemos dos idiomas para decirlo. We have 2 languages with which to approximate one pain. Aguantar, arrancar, cataclysm, fissure. Cuídate, I said to you. I'll see you later today. 7. My mom asked if a memorial poem had to be sad, adjective with tiny wings. Maybe a memorial poem is the way we document the sky to each other, saying, look, today the light breaks in 5 places, and it is so specific, so compositional, that it has to be the person I lost, the voice I lost, the person I lost, speaking to me in a new 3rd tongue. 8. On an evening run, I pass fields anointed with poppies. A rabbit is decaying where my route breaks into desert, and every day, every time I step over it, it is a little less. I am continuing past you. The changes are changes I have to catalog. Every day, lift new smells from the earth, a little lilac, a little less, and a road continues into open space. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Want to thank the Academy for having me, Ricardo and Nakai, also AWP, thank you, and thank all of you for being here. I know there are other things happening, so appreciate you listening. I am going to read, and of course, Suji and Sarah, such a pleasure, such a joy to read with you all. I'm going to read a couple poems from my first book and then read from the Ferguson Report and Erasure, and then some OPP, other people's poems. So, yeah. I'll start with a poem from my mom, which I always do to bring her in the room with us. This is called "The First Person Who Will Live to Be 150 Years Old Has Already Been Born." Scientists say the average human life gets 3 months longer every year. By this math, death will be optional, like a tie or dessert or suffering. My mother asks whether I'd want to live forever. I'd get bored, I tell her, but she says there's so much to do, meaning she believes there's much she hasn't done. 30 years ago, she was the age I am now, but unlike me, too industrious to think about birds disappeared by rain. If only we had more time, or enough money to be kept on ice until such a time science could bring us back. Of late, my mother has begun to think life short-lived. I'm too young to convince her otherwise. The one and only occasion I was in the same room as the Mona Lisa, it was encased in glass behind what I imagine were velvet ropes. There's far less between ourselves and oblivion. Skin that often defeats its very purpose. Or maybe its purpose isn't protection at all, but rather to provide a place similar to a doctor's waiting room in which to sit until our names are called. Hold your questions until the end. Mother, measure my wide open arms. We still have this much time to kill. Okay. This poem is called Hysterical Strength. When I hear news of a hitchhiker struck by lightning yet living, or a child lifting a 2-ton sedan to free his father pinned underneath, or a camper fighting off a grizzly with her bare hands until someone, a hunter perhaps, can shoot it dead, my thoughts turn to Black people, the hysterical strength we must possess to survive our very existence, which I fear many believe is and treat as itself a freak occurrence. I think that's a good transition into the Ferguson Report. Okay. I'm going to read a few excerpts from this. A couple more poems from Ordinary Beast, and then close with OPP. Everyone knows what the Ferguson Report is, yeah? If not, the Ferguson Report details bias policing and court practices in Ferguson, Missouri. And so I erased it. Horses, hundreds, neighing. Part reflex, part reason, part particular urge. At gunpoint, among them, you are. Less likely to live into the wild go the captive born. Home in the high grass, a barking dog chokes itself against the pull of a tight leash, its neck extending farther than cries for help. A kind of headlight echoing, increasing in reach. The forecast red, the city red, diminishing to the proportion of. Whoever said death comes in threes is an optimist. Then the birds began to fly low and patternless, as if they were each 2 hands joined, just pretending at birds. The soft music from passing cars shouting down the soft music from their dying. Stop, hands where I can see. A boy pretends to pray. His mark makes of her hands a bird and flies away. Stop or I'll shoot, he kids. Then makes of his hands a gun, fires away. In the bushes, next to the lot across the street, a rustling like back talk, a deer. The animal out of nowhere flees, seconds too late. A design oversight assigned to that particular beast. On the police radio, a song, a threat, a slip of tongue in an ear, moist as an eye. Approached, the deer stiffens, a telltale sign the conditions under which it ran were breaking the skin. Worse, training the mind. Who among us is stunned by how fast rain pours from the sky? Stunned by how the sky, clear at first, self-corrects, as if to say, I mean this, not that, not this. Use of force, force of habit, of nature, force feed, force down, force his hand, force in line, full force, by force, show of force, brute force, blunt force to be reckoned with, force a smile as law enforcement turns out, in force, to force, open your door. With the living, I am familiar. A woman stretches the truth to disappear it, throws her voice to animate it, as when I imagine the word was made flesh. I've been trying to scrape up what I remember. 1, 1,100 stems, long, headless. 2, a few bad apples. 3, reports of a stolen pickup. You put down one color, Bearden thought, and it calls for an answer. What's an answer to black, I wonder? As for men lying face down in the street, knees on their necks, their hands behind their backs, laboring like babies on their bellies trying to crawl, then stiff as a dime down after a toss in the air. Tails, see heads, heads execution on the basis of fact, including the fact if true, with the caption, pass out, motherfucker. An idea came to me this morning like an honest mistake. It's sundown here. The day almost entirely extinguished closes its casket's crown after bearing gifts as pointed as its teeth. They say, stand in line, so we stand in line. As the line advances, they say, stand still. Around us, everything going like cars or clouds. Us, the blur cars pass. The blue clouds dam. They say wait, so we wait. As if for some fragrant flower that unfurls one night a year. They say shh. So like trees, we mouth cross sounds of flags beaten to shreds by wind. Our heads twitch, birds watching for what might be stalking. Right before they deploy canines to bite, there's a pause between wails in which you hear your shut eyes dilate. Listen. Okay, I think I'm gonna read just a couple more poems. A couple more poems by me and then close with OPP. Y'all doing okay? Okay. Whew. I should know where these poems are in this book. Here we go. This is called Imagine Sisyphus Happy. Give me tonight to be inconsolable, so the death drive does not declare itself, so the moonlight does not convince sunrise. I was born before sunrise, when morning masquerades as night, the temperature of blood quivering like a mouth in mourning. How do we author our gentle birth, the height we were? Were we God's rolling stars across a sundog sky, the same as scarabs? We fit somewhere between God and mineral, angel and animal, believing a thing as sacred as the sun rises and falls like an ordinary beast. Deer sniff lifeless fawns before leaving. Elephants encircle the skulls and tusks of their dead, none wanting to leave the bones behind, none knowing their leave will lessen the loss. But birds pluck their own feathers. Dogs lick themselves to wound. Allow me this luxury. Give me tonight to cut and salt the open. Give me a shovel to uproot the mandrake and listen for its scream. Give me a face that toils so closely with stone, it is itself stone. I promise to enter the flesh again. I promise to circle, to ascend. I promise to be happy tomorrow. And lastly, this is called Object Permanence, and it's for my husband. He's here somewhere. There he is. For John. Happy Valentine's Day, pre-Valentine's Day. We wake as if surprised the other is still there, each petting the sheet to be sure. How have we managed our way to this bed, beholden to heat like dawn, indebted to light? Though we're not so self-important as to think everything has led to this, everything has led to this. There's a name for the animal love makes of us, named, I think, like rain for the sound it makes. You are the animal after whom other animals are named. Until there's none left to laugh, days will start with the same startle and end with caterpillars gorged on milkweed. Oh, how we entertain the angels with our brief animation. Oh, how I'll miss you when we're dead. And my final poem, not by me, it's important that we bring other voices into the room, so this poem is by Mahmoud Darwish, a Palestinian poet, and it's called I Belong There. I belong there. I have many memories. I was born as everyone is born. I have a mother, a house with many windows, brothers, friends, and a prison cell with a chilly window. I have a wave snatched by seagulls, a panorama of my own. I have a saturated meadow. In the deep horizon of my word, I have a moon, a bird's sustenance, and an immortal olive tree. I have lived on the land long before swords turned man into prey. I belong there. When heaven mourns for her mother, I return heaven to her mother. And I cry so that a returning cloud might carry my tears. To break the rules, I have learned all the words needed for a trial by blood. I have learned and dismantled all the words in order to draw from them a single word: home. Thank you for listening.